Hey, welcome back everyone. Tonight's story takes us to a public housing apartment in Hong Kong. Have any of you grew up in, or at least visited, one of these before? These housing estates are like mini cities, where hundreds, or sometimes even thousands of people might live within a few square blocks. Many of these public housing estates also carry a lot of strange stories. With so many lives packed in such tight quarters, it's no surprise that these buildings have their fair share of strange stories. Tragedies and accidents happen over the years, and sometimes what's left behind doesn't move on so easily. Tonight's story comes from a man, let's call him Mark, who grew up in one of these public housing estates. Mark describes growing up in this building back in the 90s as one of the best times of his life. Everyone on his floor pretty much knew each other, and all the kids would head out and play together almost every day after school. It wasn't just his family's flat that felt like home, it was the whole building. The stairwells, the corridors, the rooftop, even the little corners by the garbage chutes. To the kids, the building wasn't just where they lived, it was their own massive playground. Once school was out for the day, Mark's routine rarely changed. He would drop off his backpack at home, grab a quick snack, and then head right back out to meet his friends, most of whom were just getting back from school as well. They would play hide and seek around the building, race each other up and down the hallways, or ride bikes outside until the sun went down. Their choices felt limitless. With most of their parents busy working, the kids had a run of the place. It was like they had their own little world, and they loved it. The housing estate that Mark lived in was one of the older ones, designed in that classic well shape. All the units wrapped around in a square layout, forming a hollow core in the middle. From the ground floor, if you look up, you could see rows and rows of balconies stacked on top of each other, rising all the way to the sky. In the center was a wide open terrace on the ground floor, a kind of shared courtyard where kids would gather, old men would play chess, and laundry would flap from the railings above like flags. There was an old woman who lived on the 14th floor. Mark guessed she was probably in her 80s. She was always there, sitting just outside her unit on a little wooden stool, watching the kids run around and play with this soft, kind smile on her face. She always had the same red plastic bag with her, and inside that bag, candy. Every time she saw kids passing by, she would call out in a cheerful voice, "Hey kids, come over, I've got some candy, come and take some." And of course, they always went. Mark and his friends were still young, probably too young to know any better. Back then, stranger danger wasn't really something they really thought about. They never questioned it, never wondered why she was always out there, never even asked for her name. She was just there. Does she even count as a stranger? She was pretty much part of the building, like the stairwell or the mailboxes. It was always just her. Mark and his friends have never seen any other family member there. On this particular night though, when this incident occurred, it was getting close to 9 p.m. The sky was already pitch black, and Mark was squeezing in one last game of tag with his friends before everyone had to head home. He was it, so he had to be the one chasing the others, darting between the floors, trying to catch someone else. He remembers that night vividly, the way his footsteps echoed through the stairwells. At that moment, he was on the 13th floor, and that's when something caught his eye. He happened to glance up, and there she was. The granny standing on the 14th floor balcony, waving at him, smiling. That same kind, familiar grin. In one hand, she held her usual red plastic bag, bulging with candy. With the other, she waved at him, beckoning him to come up. And of course, Mark didn't hesitate. He never turns down free candy from Granny. From the 13th floor, just as Mark was about to head up, something else caught his attention. Behind the Granny, inside her flat, he could see two figures standing in the darkness. Her unit had no lights on, it was completely dark. But the glow of the light from the hallway outside spilled in just enough for him to make out two shapes, just standing there, still. Mark didn't really think too much about it at the time. He was more focused on the candy. So, up he went. Just one short flight to the 14th floor, less than a minute of walking. But by the time he got there, she was gone. Her front door was shut. And sitting just outside her door, placed neatly in front of the entrance, was a large white candle. It was lit and flickering gently in a round metal basin. Hanging from the door handle was the same red plastic bag the one he saw Granny holding just a minute ago. It was full of candy, just like always. That's weird, Mark thought. She was just out here waving at me, and now she's gone? Did she go to bed that fast? It was only 9 o'clock. Who sleeps that early? Still, he reached into the bag and grabbed a few pieces of candy. He figured she must have left it out for him. But just as he was turning to leave, he noticed something else. The front door wasn't fully closed. It looked shut, but if you looked closely, it wasn't locked. There was a crack. Just enough to peek through. Mark hesitated, then leaned forward. Maybe she's still awake. Maybe he could say a quick thank you for the candy if he could see her. So he peeked inside. Mark squinted through the crack in the door, but he couldn't see anything. Even with the hallway light creeping in, the inside of the unit was just abnormally dark, like the darkness was swallowing the whole light. He leaned in a little closer, trying to make something out, and that's when his eyes shifted upward, toward the top of the door. There, near the ceiling, was a pair of eyes, staring right back down at him. These eyes weren't like anything Mark's ever seen before. It seemed to stare through him, and it gave him a very heavy feeling as it looked at him. It made him feel small and helpless. Mark stumbled backwards. Now, he realized why he couldn't see anything inside the unit. This figure standing right behind the door was huge. It was so tall, its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its body had been blocking the view the whole time. Mark froze. His heart was pounding, but he didn't know what else to do at the time. So he called out, his voice barely steady. Excuse me, is Granny home? Silence. The eyes didn't move. They just kept staring down at him from the shadows. Then suddenly, a voice rang out behind him. Hey, what are you doing? I thought you were looking for us. Mark spun around. It was his friends calling up at him from the 13th floor. He looked down at them, relieved for a moment. But just then, he heard it. Granny's front door quietly shutting behind him. He turned back, but the door was now fully closed. Nothing but the flickering candle in the metal basin left. Mark hurried back to the 13th floor to rejoin his friends. Trying to act normal, he casually asked, Hey, did any of you see Granny just now? But they all shook their heads. Not one of them had seen her. When Mark got home that night, he was still a little shaken, but curiosity got the better of him. He asked his mom, Hey, have you seen the Granny from the 14th floor lately? The one who always gives us candy. His mom looked up from what she was doing, her brow furrowing. The Granny? You mean the one who always sits outside with the red bag? Mark nodded. She hesitated, then said, Mark, you won't be seeing her anymore. Unfortunately, she passed away recently. What? Mark blinked. No, that can't be. I just saw her. His mom gave him a tired look. Mark, don't make up stories now. You probably saw someone else. Don't go wandering up to her floor these next few days, okay? She turned away. And stop talking about this stuff before bed. You're going to scare yourself. As Mark got older, he started to believe that maybe the shadowy figures behind Granny that day weren't just shadows or his imagination. In Chinese folklore, there's a belief that when someone passes away, they're escorted to the afterlife by two entities known as Ao Tao and Ma Min. It literally translates to ox head and a horse face. These death escorts serve as enforcers from the Chinese underworld, mainly responsible for escorting wandering souls and maintain order among the spirits of the dead. They're often described as the first beings you'll encounter after death, especially if your passing was sudden or violent. Oxhead is said to be a massive figure with a muscular human body and head of an ox. It's often depicted with the large horns of a bull, and often wields a trident or heavy chains. Horseface? It's equally hulking in terms of size, but instead of an ox head, it has an elongated face and the ears of a horse. It's often depicted in ancient texts as carrying a rope or a staff used to subdue spirits who resist moving on. Both are usually wearing ancient official garb or armor, and while they can appear terrifying, they're not inherently evil, as their function is to only do their job of maintaining order in the afterlife. There are numerous different reports of their sightings over the years. Their presence is always ominous, as when they show up, someone is going to die, or already has, similar to the Grim Reaper in the West. Sometimes people dream of them just before dying. As for the white candle outside Granny's unit, it was most likely put there by family or someone close to her to help guide her soul. A single white candle placed outside a home in Chinese tradition is a funeral signal. It tells neighbors and spirits alike that someone in the household has passed, and it's usually placed there for a few days after death. As the soul prepares to move on, it serves as a guiding light to help the spirit find its way out of the home and move toward the afterlife. It also is a visual cue to neighbors not to disturb the family, and a way to show respect. When people see this, they usually avoid passing by too closely to the unit, especially at night. Maybe the granny wanted to pass out candy to the children one last time before her journey. What do you guys think? Do you think that Mark was seeing things that night? Did he just mistaken someone else for the granny? There were plenty of other old grannies living in Mark's building at the time. Maybe it really was just someone else he saw that night. Someone who happened to look like her, standing on the balcony with the same red plastic bag. But then, what about the two figures that Mark saw behind her? The ones standing silently in the dark? Let us know what you guys think happened that night in the comments below. Now this next story, it's pretty terrifying. It comes from someone living in Taiwan. We'll call him Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang didn't want to deal with the cramped, noisy apartments in the city. Instead, he chose to rent a village house, out in the rural outskirts. For the price, he got way more space, and a kind of quiet that's hard to find in the city. Sure, the commute to work was a little bit longer, but to Mr. Yang, it was worth it. At least, that's what he thought at first. Across the street from Mr. Yang's village house, there lived a mother and daughter. They stayed in a 3-story home. The daughter had the second floor all to herself, while the older mother lived on the ground floor. Now, the way they communicated was a bit old-fashioned. Whenever the mother needed something, she would open her window and shout up toward the second floor. And the daughter, she would do the same, yelling down toward the mother from above. So every now and then, Mr. Yang would hear their voices echoing across the road. Honestly, it got a little bit annoying sometimes, but it wasn't a constant issue. They would only occasionally do this throughout the week. Mr. Yang started to notice something early on. The mother, she never left the house. She was a bit older, so Mr. Yang assumed it's due to mobility issues. It was only the daughter who would step out now and then, maybe once or twice a week, to make quick grocery runs, just enough to stock up for the two of them. There was something off about her. People in the village said she had some kind of psychological condition. Mr. Yang never found out the specifics, but one thing was clear. She couldn't work due to this illness, and she never spoke to anyone other than her mother. Whenever Mr. Yang ran into her outside, she would just stare. No smile or words, just a cold, distant look, like she was peering right through him. And it wasn't just him, she treated everyone the same. She would also talk to herself a lot, sometimes quietly under her breath. Other times, she would start shouting nonsense to no one at all. Just nonsensible ramblings, things that didn't make any sense. Everyone in the village knew who she was and tried their best to avoid her if they saw her outside. One evening, as Mr. Yang was walking home from work, same route, same quiet street, when something unusual caught his eye. Across the road, the front door to the mother and daughter's house, it was chained shut from the outside. That wasn't there this morning, he thought. He was sure of it. It stopped him in his tracks. Uneasy, Mr. Yang hurried into his own house and asked his mother, "Hey mom, do you know what happened across the street?" She gave him a somber look. "The old woman," she said. "She passed away." Apparently, while Mr. Yang was at work, the authorities had come. Several police officers and paramedics. They had to break down the front door just to get inside. The daughter was taken to the station for further questioning. Standard procedure, Mr. Yang figured, but still, what a tragedy. Poor girl, he thought. Everything had seemed normal just yesterday. He could still hear their voices in his head, the mother and the daughter, shouting back and forth from their windows like always. And now, just like that, the mother was gone. They were never close, but they were neighbors after all. After hearing news like this, it left a strange weight in Mr. Yang's chest. He felt bad for the poor girl. Later that night, his mom brought it up. "She's all alone now," she said quietly. "Next time we see her, we should give her some bakgum, which is funeral gift money. That might help her out in a time of need." Mr. Yang nodded. Yeah, that felt like the right thing to do. The next day after work, Mr. Yang noticed that the metal chain on the door was gone and the lights were on upstairs. He figured the daughter must be home now. That evening, over dinner, Mr. Yang brought it up to his mother again. "How shall we give the bakgum to her?" he asked. "I mean, it doesn't feel right just knocking on her door." His mother agreed. Better to wait until they saw her outside again, when she goes to get groceries, and they'll give it to her then. No need to disturb her during such a difficult time. The next day was Saturday, and Mr. Yang was home all day. He wasn't doing much, just relaxing. But he kept an eye out on the street, hoping to catch the neighbor girl, if she happened to go out. She usually did her grocery runs on the weekends, so Mr. Yang didn't want to miss the chance to hand over the bakgum gift to her. Sure enough, sometime in the afternoon, he finally saw her. She stepped out of her house, head down, walking briskly. By the time Mr. Yang got to his window, she was already halfway down the block. Too late to catch her now. But then he figured he needed a few things anyway from the store. Might as well head out too. Maybe he could catch up to her and give her the envelope there at the grocery store. At the store, Mr. Yang spotted her in the checkout line. She was buying an armful of instant noodles and microwavable meals. She was also arguing with the cashier. "I don't understand," she snapped. "How do you expect me to heat this up if there's no microwave here?" The staff looked confused. It was a grocery store after all, not a convenience store. Microwaves aren't exactly part of the service. One of the workers tried to explain, gently, that customers don't usually heat food inside the grocery store, and that's just how it works. And then, just like that, her mood flipped. She stopped shouting. Her voice turned calm, flat. "That's alright," she said. "My mother doesn't eat hot food now anyways." Mr. Yang's heart dropped when she said that. Didn't her mother just pass away? That sentence chilled him to the bone. He no longer felt comfortable walking up to her. He clutched the envelope in his pocket, but never took it out. Instead, he quietly got his own groceries and headed back home. But the moment he stepped through the door, he noticed that there were two police officers already inside, talking to his mother. They said they were following up with the case across the street. Given how close Mr. Yang's house was, they were hoping he or his mother might have noticed anything. How the mother and daughter got along, whether they ever heard arguing, shouting, anything unusual. As the conversation unfolded, one particular detail was said by one of the officers in passing. The old woman had already been dead for the last 7 days when they found her. Mr. Yang's eyes shot to his mother. They both exchanged a stunned look. "That can't be right," he said slowly. "My mother and I still heard them yelling outside the window just 2 days ago. If the old woman had passed away over a week ago, then who exactly had the daughter been shouting back and forth with? Was she living with a corpse that entire time? Talking to it? Arguing with it?" The officers went quiet. After a moment, they said that the rest of the case details were confidential, still under investigation, so they couldn't say more about it. They thanked Mr. Yang and his mother for their time, and left. A few days later, a van arrived. Some officials came out and quietly took the girl away. She wasn't arrested, but after speaking with a few neighbors about what happened, Mr. Yang learned that it had been decided she could no longer care for herself in her state of mind. She was sick. He never found out exactly where they took her. A facility of some kind, maybe. Somewhere she could finally receive the mental care she needed. And as for the bakgum, he never got the chance to give it to her. Instead, Mr. Yang and his mother decided to burn some joss paper and incense for the old woman outside the now empty house. They hoped they would help guide her spirit peacefully into the afterlife. But still, one question lingered, one they couldn't shake. If the mother had already passed away, then who was yelling back and forth with the daughter just days earlier? Was it possible that the old woman's spirit, knowing her daughter's fragile state, refused to leave her behind for her to be all alone? Or maybe Mr. Yang and his mother were just mistaken. Maybe they imagined it, got the timeline wrong. But then again, even if that was true, what about what the girl said at the grocery store? "My mother doesn't eat hot food now anyways." What does she mean by that? What do you guys think really happened here? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed these two chilling incidents from Asia. Until we meet again next week.